Welcome to the farm.
Welcome to the farm. I'm Justin, and behind me is the hill we've been working on grading, where we dug a trench for a water line down to the barn and out to the garden. Now it's been probably a month and a half since we did the grading with the box blade and the tractor and the excavator. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link to that in the description. And I'm really kind of disappointed it's taken me this long to get to this point, but I'm kind of glad that I ended up waiting because this has sat now and it's been rained on quite a bit. And since that's happened, I'm not happy with how this is all laying out. I think we need to do a little more work on it. So when I first graded with the tractor and the box blade, it looked really well. But since then, a lot of the loose dirt on top has kind of filtered down and has left just a ton of rock poking up through that I'm going to end up hitting with the mower. And it also created a lot of little ridges, and like here, I don't know how well you can see, but this is high. This is about 6 inches lower. If I try to mow over that with the lawnmower, I'm going to be skimming the dirt, hitting the blades, and it's just not going to be the finish I want. So unfortunately, the only thing I can think of to do is to come through with a hand rake and just rake up all this rock. So I think as soon as I bring a machine out here, I'm going to loosen up all that dirt. The rock's just going to get mixed in, and I'm going to end up with the same problem. It's going to be a lot of manual labor, but I think it's the next necessary step. But before I can go ahead and start raking, it's fall. We've had a lot of leaves come down. I want to get all the leaves blown out of the way so we're not raking that up with the dirt and the rocks. So I got all the leaves blown off the hill now, and this is actually a lot worse than I remember it being. The leaves were covering up a lot of rock. But you can see just how much rock I still have in here and how uneven and undulating it is. And I think if I try to do this by hand with a rake, it's going to take me days of work. So I think what I might do is take a break from shooting this video, and I might go build something to try to make this a lot easier. So I'll see you, hopefully, after I have that built. So this is what I ended up making, and if you haven't seen the videos on this, I'll put the playlist in the description. It was a really fun build, but essentially I just took my middle buster, took the plow off, and adapted it to fit this homemade rake. Again, really fun build. Unfortunately, by the time I finished this, winter hit, the ground was frozen, and it is now spring. So as much as I'd love to just hook the tractor up to this thing, take it out and test it, there's something we need to take care of first before we can try to use this. So because it took so long for me to get that built and winter hit and ground froze, we weren't able to do anything in fall, and this spring was extremely wet, and this is the first real dry weekend I've had, but you can see the weeds and the grass have completely taken over. And I think if I just put the rake on the tractor now and try to run it through that, all that long vegetation is just going to plug up the rake, and it's not going to work the way I hope it will. So I think what we're going to do is throw the brush mower on the Kubota, come through, mow this down. I'm using the brush mower because I know if I use the Cub Cadet lawnmower, I will hit rocks and damage something. So I'm going to put the brush mower on, knock all this down, and then I think I'm going to come through with the backpack blower and blow all the cut stuff off of this. So hopefully we're left with really short vegetation that won't plug up the rake. well, we got the rake on the tractor. I'm excited to try it out, but I'm also really nervous because if this thing doesn't work the way I'm hoping, that was a lot of wasted time building this thing. Thankfully, not a lot of wasted material. Most of the stuff I had in the shop and was mostly built out of scrap, so thankfully that won't be a big loss. But that also means I'm gonna have a ton of manual labor up on that hill, raking all that rock and shoveling it out. But before we go ahead and put this in the dirt, we need to get all our angles set. I want the whole backside of this rake parallel with the tractor so it grades nice and even. It's not digging in deeper on one side and shallower on the other. And then I also want to get this thing tilted back quite a bit so that my tines on my rake dig in a little bit more and actually work on loosening up the soil and popping the rock out and grabbing it and dragging it out. Well, I think we got it set up the best we can for now. Let's go see what it does. Well, I did my first full pass down the hill and I was able to drag one rock. That's not gonna cut it. So it didn't work initially, but I think I have a solution. It looked like the rake was just too light, and every time it got a rock, it would just kind of raise up over the rock and just kind of float. It needs more weight. So let's bring it over to the shop, add a bunch of weight to it, and see what it does. All right, we got a couple 100 pounds of steel added to this thing. Hopefully that'll be enough weight to get this thing to bite into the dirt. If not, we'll just keep adding weight until it does. Well, that definitely worked better. I picked up a lot more rock. Really happy about that, but it is kind of what I was afraid of. It's picking up a lot of that greenage and plugging up the rake. So I think what we're gonna have to do is just keep working it up and down this hill, pulling all this loose stuff out, and hopefully after multiple passes, we'll get all the green stuff ripped out and all the rock graded out, and it'll be looking much, much better. So I'm gonna set you guys up on time lapse, and we're just gonna keep driving and see how it works. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how it's working. It's pulling a lot of the rock down. It pulls a lot of that greenage out, and it's taking a lot of the real fine topsoil and kind of rolling it in front of it and filling in all the low spots and actually making it pretty smooth. Unfortunately, I think I'm fighting two things that's making this a little more difficult than it needs to be. One, because the hill is so steep back here, I can only grade coming down. I can't really do side slope because the tractor is really unstable, and I can't go back up because the tractor isn't going to want to pull that weight. It's just going to spin the tires. So I can only come down in this section, and the other part has something to do with the rake. when I designed this to come apart so the rake could come off of my middle buster and I could use it as a middle buster plow again. And then when I need the rake, I could just slide this on and bolt it back together. Unfortunately, that's creating a weak point, and my rake itself is actually kind of rocking back and forth. So as I go forward, the rake is rocking forward and letting a bunch of stuff come up underneath. So I think what's causing that rocking issue is the bolts I used aren't long enough to bolt all the way through my two pieces of steel and the middle buster. So I ended up threading this middle buster and running the bolt in. I got one coming in from this side and one coming in from that side. And I think that's just making too much play. I'm wondering if I get a longer bolt and bolt it completely through, if that'll cinch everything down tighter and keep this thing from rocking. If that doesn't work, what we'll have to do is we'll just take this apart and I'll weld this solid to the middle buster, and this will only be a rake and nothing else. So I'm gonna run to the hardware store and get some longer bolts this size, see if that takes care of our problem. So we got the rake tightened back in with the through bolts. It seems a lot tighter. Hopefully those bolts stay tight and we don't get that wobble in the rake again. So let's go test out a repair and see how it does in the rock. So I ran for about another half hour now, and I am really happy with the result. The rake did much better now that I got it bolted through. It's a lot more sturdy, a lot more stable, and I found going really slow with the tractor really picks up a lot more rock and it works a lot better. So I'm really happy about that. Unfortunately, we're only about half done with what we need to rake out, and this was the less rocky half. The half over by the barn has a lot more rock in it, but I'm hoping it's gonna work really well. Before we head over to do that rock though, there's something else I want to take care of. So behind me here is a pile that got pulled down with the rake, and it's a lot of rock in there, but there's still quite a bit of dirt and topsoil that I'd like to get out. And the pile's getting pretty big, so before I rake the next section, I'd like to get this cleaned up and the dirt moved back up to the top of the hill for later grading. So I think what I'm gonna do is fire up my little micro excavator I got, come out here with a little rock bucket and just kind of start cleaning this up and sifting through it. All right, so I haven't started this thing since last fall. Hopefully it starts well. Oil looks good. Well, it feels really good to have this thing out. I am super excited. I love playing with this thing, even though it's really cheap and not the greatest. I just love excavators. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna grease this thing up, and we'll start sifting dirt. Well, I got that pile sorted out. This is all really nice, fine topsoil. There's still a little bit of rock in it because of the gaps in the actual rock bucket on the excavator, but they're small enough, I'm not worried about it. And we pulled quite a bit of stuff out of there. Now granted, there's still a lot of dirt in there because of all the greenage we had, so it didn't filter through as much as I would have liked, but that's a lot of rock that we don't have to worry about on the hill now. So I think what I'm going to do today now is grab the Kubota, load up all this topsoil and move it up to the top of the hill and just kind of stage it up there, because eventually I want to put the box blade on and grade it all back out, and I want to start at the top of the hill and pull down. It's just going to be a lot easier that way. I am so happy with how that hill turned out. It looks amazing. I wish the rake would have worked better than it did. It picked up a lot more dirt than I thought it was going to, but I don't know if that's just because of the vegetation or if it's just the way the rake's gonna work. But it worked really well, and then using the excavator bucket to sift out the rocks in the pile of the fine topsoil, we got some really good stuff up there to spread and fill in all the low spots and cover up any other little rocks and stuff that may be left. I think we're going to end up with a amazing yard. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for this one today. I was really hoping to have the whole hill de-rocked today, but I always expect to get more done than I do. But we are half done, so hopefully in the next one we can finish getting all the rock out of here and finish grading up this hill. It's been a year today since we started that project, and I am ready for it to be done. Well, that's going to do it for this one. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.